Oh, yes, it's time. Oh, it's time, all right. Fire up a new week with reverse chronological lightning round Monday, everybody. I almost forgot that that's what we do today. I was like, honestly, I was 6 seconds into recording, and I was like, oh, it's fine. I'll do a Sunday recap. We'll just go cooking along here. Nope. It's the whole damn weekend, which means we got business to attend to. First of all, greetings. I'm Dan Besbris. This is Old Man Squad Fantasy Basketball. Thanks so much for tuning in, everybody. Find me on Twitter at Dan Besbris, DanBesbris. Order of business number 2. Please like the video, subscribe to our channel, however you're taking in the content, and if you're on Apple or Spotify, please do that 5-star review. Order of business number 3. I have officially launched the Trade Deadline Show live page over on our YouTube channel. That'll be the only place you can get the full 4-hour show, or however long that thing ends up being in the end. Usually it's around 4 hours long. I will release like a half an hour recap show on all pod channels. But if you want the big one, that's only available on YouTube. I'm going to get that link in the show description. What I need from you guys is to please go to that Trade Deadline Show page and just hit the thumbs up button. There's 65 likes on it right now. I want to get to 1,000 before February 6th. That's the trade deadline this year. We've got a little over a month to get there. It's a way to sort of power boost the show. As soon as we hit launch, a bunch of people will get an alert. Everybody that's subscribed, everybody that hit a thumbs up. Like, I just need a lot of people watching right out of the gate, because then YouTube will promote it, and that'll be a really fun way to get, a few thousand people watching the show at the same time. And that is honestly kind of what makes me tick a little bit. Diving into the actual fantasy stuff for today, here's the quick Sunday recap. One Cam in, one Cam out in Brooklyn. Cam Johnson out, Cam Thomas in. Noah Clowney might not take off immediately. He has a couple of holes in his fantasy game. I want to spend some time on Noah Clowney today. We'll spend some time on the Orlando Magic because Jalen Suggs went down. So is it Tristan Da Silva time, or is it Cole Anthony time in Orlando, or is it nobody time? Andrew Nembhard really separating himself, as is Donte DiVincenzo. A couple of really good pickups coming out of the last few days. Really, DiVincenzo, it's been about a week now. Jakob Poeltl's back for Toronto, and then Scottie Pippen Jr. is a great stream for Memphis because Ja Morant is out for a little bit. Fear not, we will break all of this stuff down in much more detail as we work our way through the show, but I just wanted to hit you guys with a couple of quickies from Sunday in case you wanted to get started on the program, do a couple of moves on your leagues, make your roster moves, and then come back and finish out the show after that. Before we get into the actual let's talk about all 30 teams part of the proceedings, BetOnline continues to be the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting. From the earliest odds to in-game live betting, BetOnline provides you with all the action and the ability to watch the games as they happen. They've got the largest selection of odds on every dang sport you can think of: football, basketball, college, NHL, UFC, you name it, they've got it. Head to BetOnline today and do not forget to use promo code BELIEVE, BLEAV, for your welcome bonus on your first deposit. BetOnline, the game starts here. Let's begin with Sunday. We'll work our way backwards through the weekend. We'll talk about every single team in the NBA in some capacity on today's program. Brooklyn and Orlando, interestingly, this is a couple of two teams that we need to spend a minute on, and we'll zip through the ones that don't have a whole lot going on. My goal, by the way, is to get through this show in the next 25 minutes. Can we do it? Probably not, but it's a good goal to set. Brooklyn lost Cam Johnson midway through. I'll throw that up on the screen because we're at Basketball Monsters page, and you can do that. Left hip soreness. Hopefully he'll be back soon. If I'm remembering right, I think Brooklyn has kind of a whack schedule going on right now. No, they're just off for 2 days. It's a 3-game week, but kind of clustered in the middle. I don't know. I'd be a little surprised if he was back for the next one, but we shall see. Cam Thomas is back. He got 18 shots and 11 free throws up in 24 and a half minutes, so expect a ridiculous amount of usage there. Noah Clowney played 28 minutes, 13 points, 2 rebounds, 3 threes. Not really enough, but we're going to hold on to Clowney to see how he evolves. He does have some shot blocking ability. He's not a great rebounder, but we know he's going to go out there and score a bit. So let's just see how it develops over the next couple of ball games. It might be that with Clowney, you have to wait until after the All-Star break to get what you're really looking for, or, a Cam Johnson trade or whatever. But I think it's worth it as an active stash right now. Nick Claxton continues to be just totally lost in the clouds. I don't think you have any choice really but to hold on to him and see how this whole thing develops, but I get it. It's a real pain in the butt. I think Ben Simmons trends towards a drop with Cam Thomas back and D'Angelo Russell coming into town. My take on D'Lo, if you didn't watch the emergency podcast yesterday in 45 seconds here, is I think Brooklyn plays him as long as he's there. I don't think they're buying him out. There's kind of no reason to. On December 30th, they can trade him. I think there might be some rules about what they can aggregate in a trade, but they can trade him straight up if they wanted to. Fairly certain about that part of the CBA. And it might even be easier than that now. They may have actually taken some of those restrictions off. So I think D'Lo actually has a shot to be really good in Brooklyn. So the guys that you're holding with this team when all is said and done here, D'Angelo Russell, Cam Thomas, Nick Claxton, Cam Johnson are sort of like the big four. And Noah Clowney is more of an active stash. Ben Simmons now has been downgraded in my eyes to more of kind of like a speculative play because I don't know that he's going to have enough usage game to game. And 6 points, 7 boards, 7 assists, that's fine. But he doesn't get steals the way he used to. He's a turnover prone, as the softest way I can put it, player. Bad at free throw shooting. If he's go back to not shooting at all, then his positive impact field goal doesn't really have much weight on anything. And so I think he probably ends up kind of on the outside looking in. For Orlando, they lost yet another player. Jalen Suggs down with a wrist sprain. That's probably a few ball games. Hopefully we don't get any worse news about it over the next 24 hours. And in this one, when he went down, it was Tristan da Silva. Took 16 shots, scored 21 points with 7 assists. Cole Anthony hit a game winner, although he only played 17 minutes. So there's sort of this like, Paolo's close, but we've been saying that for a week and a half, and he's still not back yet because oblique stuff is super weird, and it takes a really, really, really long time. I guess Tristan da Silva is kind of an ad. You know, when he plays this well, and if he's really going to be like the focal point on offense, even a bad efficiency game, if he's doing that much, it'll be worthwhile. So I'm okay with a Tristan da Silva ad in most formats. I don't know that I would play him immediately against a games cap. That frightens me just a little bit. But I would certainly like to see how it goes. I thought KCP would do enough. I mean, he took 9 shots. That should technically be enough for him. You could probably roll KCP also, and I don't know that I'd go much farther than that. I did warn you guys about Trevelin Queen, that these rookies, they pop up and then they disappear just as fast because, like, they have explosion games. Indiana-Boston, Andrew Nembhard is absolutely dominating these days, and I know it's not going to be this good all the time, but he's cooking. And when guys are cooking, we got to take notice. The problem, of course, with Nembhard is he's not a big steals guy. He's not a big three-pointers guy. And he's an okay assists guy. So he needs to do a lot in the categories he's decent at to overcome the stuff where he's not. Lately, he has been. And so that's the key that we're working with here. If you're looking at the last 3 weeks, which is 7 ball games, he's averaging 15 and 6 on 53-89 splits, but basically no threes, steals, or blocks. Almost none. So that keeps him outside the top 100 in 9-cat over those 3 weeks. But if you're punting threes, he's inside. If you're punting steals, he's inside. I'm not worried about rebounds or blocks because he's a point guard. You have to focus on the things that guards are supposed to be good at if you figure out the punt stuff. So, like, punting threes moves him up to number 90, and probably better than that if you're just looking at it from a guard standpoint. He's a great fit if you're a punt threes team. So, you know, feel it out a little bit. Obviously, with this ball game over the last 2 weeks, it's pulled his average much higher. But a lot of it with him is good field goal percent, good free throw, scores, assists, and you're not counting on a whole lot else. But I like Nembhard as an ad right now. He's good enough that even the stuff where he has shortcomings, it's keeping him kind of at the sort of top of the filler part of the pocket if you're competing in all 9 categories. And then if he goes on little runs, that's how he kind of pushes above that. By the way, looks like Tyrese Haliburton is fine. Boston, meanwhile, is in a little bit of a mini slump, and some of that has to do with the fact that they're just missing guys right now, and eventually that catches up with you a little bit. Celtics are 5-5 in their last 10. The Knicks are actually only a game back of Boston all of a sudden. And the Cavs are 4.5 up. Not much margin at the very tippy top of the Eastern Conference. I thought Al Horford would be better. He played 31 minutes. Normally, when he plays 31 minutes, he's great, but he had a weird shooting game. 2 for 12. Very unusual for Big Al. If Porzingis and Drew Holiday miss another ball game, I'm totally fine with trying Al Horford again. Peyton Pritchard, this is a great opportunity for him, certainly with Drew Holiday out, and then everything else is pretty straightforward with the Boston Celtics. Atlanta smoked the Raptors without Dyson Daniels, and they still had 22 steals in this game. Without, I say again, without Dyson Daniels. Jalen Johnson had 6. DeAndre Hunter and Vit Krejci had 3 apiece, so you're already at 12. 2 apiece for Keaton Wallace, Onyeka Okongwu, Clint Capella, and Zachary Reese-Shea. That's 20. And then 1 for David Roddy and 1 for Trae Young, who tied for the team lead with 2 blocks. Go figure. Yikes, Toronto. Larry Nance is out. Onyeka Okongwu's back. I'm not adding Okongwu. I know he had an okay game here, but Capella's the center you want now that Nance is out. We saw this before. Capella was running better with Okongwu as the backup. Larry Nance was seemingly like the best option on the team for the 4 games that he was healthy. And then no other real notes here. There isn't like an obvious fill-in for Dyson Daniels. Reese-Shea played better in this ball game, but sometimes it's Garrison Matthews, and sometimes it's even more DeAndre Hunter. I wouldn't go spelunking for fantasy value there. For Toronto, Jakob Poeltl's back, which ruined any Kelly Olynyk dreams that I might have had, and they were gross ones. Jakob Poeltl, 13 and 6, 2 steals, 3 blocks. His minutes will slowly trend up as he gets his groins back underneath him. I've said it before, I'll say it again. I don't think Grady Dick is going to be a playable guy with Barnes and Barrett both healthy. And if Emmanuel Quickley ever resurfaces from this whole, not Tommy John UCL situation, then Grady Dick is fully doomed at that point. He's like, I think he's filler level. Of course, if Barnes misses a game or Barrett misses a game, then Grady moves back into startable. But right now, he's in filler zone. And plus, Bruce Brown is back. So that's going to complicate matters even further. Maybe I'm too low on Grady. Sue me. Let's keep going. Miami beat Houston, and there was a big old brawl at the end of this ball game. Tyler Hero, Terry Rozier, Freddie VanVleet, Amen Thompson, Jalen Green, all ejected in the kerfuffle. Started with Hero and Amen Thompson. It's a kind of a fun video if you want to go watch it. For Miami, Jimmy Butler is supposed to be back for their next ball game, so let's just basically ignore all of the fringe assets having better games. This time it was Haywood Highsmith and Nikola Jovic, but I don't care. When Butler's back, all these guys turn into nothing. On the Houston side, Dylan Brooks came back and played 40 minutes, but Jabari Smith Jr. had a down game because Amen Thompson took his minutes. And again, this is why you sit on Thompson. Tari Eason's been questionable for about the last 3 ball games in a row, and he's been ruled out in each of them. Try to hold if you can. He was nearly a top 50 fantasy asset when he was healthy. And I know it sucks to have him questionable every day and then not go every day. Try to stick it out for another week. Try. The nice thing about this game, if you want to call it that, is that all the ejections happened with 30 seconds to go. So you got full fantasy lines before it happened. And no, I'm not adding Dylan Brooks. Memphis, no John Morant, no Zach Edey. They got destroyed by Oklahoma City, who said, yeah, you guys can stay in second place. Thank you. Please and thank you. If you had the balls to stream John Conchar, congratulations, because I definitely did not. But it would appear that he's the next man up because Jake LaRavia ended up hurt in this ball game. Played about 14 minutes. He probably would have gotten like another 10, and that basically went straight to Conchar. I would rather just play Scottie Pippen Jr., who, again, only got 24 minutes, but also blowout loss. While John Morant is out, I'm not doing anything to spell Zach Edey. It's too iffy with the way Memphis moves minutes around anyway. Jalen Williams was a little bit better for Oklahoma City. I don't know what the buy low window might look like for him. It may be gone. It might be small but existent. Meanwhile, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is making a play for the top spot in fantasy. He's not that far behind Jokic and Wemby. I thought he would take a small step back this year. He's just been as awesome as always. In my face, I guess. Regardless, even if you thought he took a step back, he was still your 4th pick behind Luka. So, yeah, I mean, the big win for Shai right now is that I think he leads the league in games played. I think Lou Dort has officially hit the wall. You can punt there. And then Hartenstein. He's obviously the only other Thunder you need. Spurs lost a tight one to Minnesota. This is a fun ball game. Chris Paul missed every shot he took, but he still had a really nice fantasy line. The magic of being a super efficient point guard. Chris Paul, number 56 in 9-cat while shooting 41.5%. Should that ever improve even the tiniest bit, he becomes a 4th rounder. Wemby's awesome. Harrison Barnes came out of nowhere. Reigning player of the month. Was that November? I don't remember. He had 24 on 9 shots. Obviously, that's like the epitome of not sustainable. Devin Vassell, 22, 7, and 4. He's coming on. Your buy low window's probably gone. And you can ignore the Jeremy Sohan down game. They'll happen from time to time. He was running really hot lately, and it's how he got himself inside the top 100. Even if you aren't punting free throws, he is more of a upper filler level guy. If you do care about foul shots, and if you don't, you could punt threes with him also, then he has a really nice spot. A better head-to-head player than Roto, but deserves to be rostered. Talking about Sohan. For Minnesota, Donte DiVincenzo, he is on a furious run right now. Absolutely, positively should have been added last week. And if you didn't do it then, do it now. He's found his groove. He's on a hot streak, yes. And obviously, like, hot streaks, they come and go. But he was on a month-and-a-half long cold streak, so who knows how long the heater lasts. He's number 161 overall, but he's number 52 over the last 2 weeks while shooting 50% from the field, which again, like, yeah, he's not going to shoot 50%, but he also wasn't going to shoot 38% for the whole year. So it's finally leveling off for him. He's on his, moon rocket here. And at some point, the heater's going to end. And that doesn't mean it's going to go back to a cold spell. It might just be like a middle spell for him after that. But what we thought right from the beginning during draft season, and again, like, you can go back and look at all the numbers. I didn't move any of my draft information. It's all right there in that Google Sheet linked. DiVincenzo was a guy that I had in bucket 21 of guys that I thought were going to finish somewhere around the 90 to 110 range, or may have had some health issues. And he simply wasn't. He wasn't anywhere near that. I thought he was going to be Golden State DiVincenzo, and he was quite bad. But now he's starting to show signs. Add him, hold him, see how it goes. And Naz Reid, I don't know what the hell to tell you guys about Naz Reid. We might be at the point where you could drop him and somebody would not pick him up. He's another guy who's going to go on a run here at some point, and his probably coincides with Gobert missing a game, or Randall missing a game, or McDaniels missing a game, or Anthony Edwards missing a game. And so far, the Wolves have been ridiculously healthy, which is not a great sign because they're only 17 and 14 overall, and they've had near perfect health. I think Mike Conley's missed 1 or 2 games, and that's basically it, right? They played 31 games. Let's do this. And I don't want to get too sidetracked because, again, we're trying to do this whole show in 25 minutes. The 7 of the 8 most important players on the Wolves have played all 31 games. The only one who hasn't is Conley. All the other guys have. Ant, Gobert, Randall, McDaniels, Naz, DiVincenzo, Nickeil Alexander-Walker. Every single one of those guys, 100% of health. That's crazy. All right, let's go back to Saturday. Let's keep cleaning up. We've talked Miami already. We talked Atlanta already. We talked OKC. We haven't talked Charlotte yet. You guys can see I'm in a blitz today, man. First of all, my dog has a vet appointment with an ophthalmologist. Yeah, doggy ophthalmology. Niche field. Miles Bridges had a nice game, but of course, the Charlotte game on Saturday was one you could basically ignore because LaMelo Ball took it off for rest. Brandon Miller was back down with that same ankle again. That's a little bit disconcerting. I believe Charlotte has a game tonight, Monday evening. Checking. Yes, they play tonight, hosting Chicago. For you weekly leaguers, if Brandon Miller misses this game against Chicago, you got to bench him. I would assume that everybody's back, but we don't know yet. And the only way to find out is to wait. I haven't seen an update on him. So, yeah, for now, all we can do is hope on Brandon Miller. Mark Williams up and over 22 minutes again. He's a full-time start right now. He played 26 in the previous game, right? This game was a bigger blowout than it finished. A couple of guys logged big minutes, but there was sort of no reason to push Mark Williams in a game where they were getting stomped pretty good. I think we're going to see 24-ish minutes for Mark in most games, and that's an easy winner. Knicks beat the Wizards in overtime. Jalen Brunson had 55, and now he's questionable with calf tightness, probably from playing 45 minutes in this game. Knicks have no fantasy notes of any kind. They're just all starters, as you'd expect with Tom Thibodeau all the time. On the Washington side, let's slow down for just a second on the Wizards. They were missing Jordan Poole and Kyle Kuzma for this game. Kuz is expected back for the Wizards' upcoming game this evening. Alex Sarr is questionable with an illness. So there's a lot of with the Wizards going into Monday night. Justin Champagnie went crazy, presumably because of no Jordan Poole. But he's played well even in the games where his minutes were down. I'll admit, I called him a drop, and then he comes in and hits us with this line, and I'm super frustrated because he's looked amazing when he's gotten good minutes. Like one of the best fantasy stat sets of young guys that you can find out there. That's my dog doing a weird noise in the background. Maybe we need to do more than doggy ophthalmology. Okay, look, let's just start at the top. Malcolm Brogdon is a play as long as he's healthy. Kuzma, I would not start coming off of this long hiatus. I would hope for a good line and then try to sell. Bilal, start in all formats. He looks great, and he's just going to get better. Jonas Valanciunas is a soft hold, very soft hold. There's not much upside there, unless Sarr misses the ball game tonight, and then Valanciunas, that's where his upside comes from. Justin Champagnie, I guess you put him back on rosters, but I think if Poole and Kuzma are both in, and Keyshawn George and Corey Kispert are both in, I don't know how we could possibly count on Champagnie to play full starters minutes in that spot. Bub Carrington is one of those guys that you're looking at more towards February and beyond, so I'm not quite as high on him. There are some pretty obvious holes in his fantasy game, and everybody had big games here because it was overtime, and everybody shot well and put up gigantic numbers. But that's basically where I stand. Oh, and Sarr is a guy you're holding as well. For that, again, more down the line, but he's also doing some stuff right now. He's doing more right now than Bub Carrington is. But Champagnie is the question mark for me. I'll be honest with you guys. I don't know what the hell to do with Justin Champagnie because I wanted him on my roster. I gave him an extra 2 or 3 games even after the team started to get healthy. And I was like, fine, he's only playing 15 minutes. Bye-bye. And then he plays 45. What? If you want to add him, but he might go back to 15 minutes in the next ball game. Milwaukee got Damian Lillard back. I'm assuming they're going to get Giannis back for the next one. He's dealing with an illness. Milwaukee has just a 3-game week. They're off for a couple of days before they're in Indiana on Tuesday. Once they get back to full health, you'll be playing Middleton, Brook Lopez, Damian Lillard, and Giannis. Those will be the 4 guys for Milwaukee. Then you'll retire Bobby Portis back to the scrap heap until Giannis misses his next ball game, I guess. For Chicago, Josh Giddey back and looked great. No Ayo Dosunmu for this game. When he gets back, Ayo's more of a wait-and-see guy for me. I've said it about 55 times on the podcast, so we'll do it in as fast as possible. I think one usage guy needs to be out for Chicago for Dosunmu to have sustainable value. And right now, with Giddey back and Vooch in and Kobe White in and Zach LaVine in, there are no usage guys out. Ayo is going to play minutes, but he needs both minutes and he needs to be touching the basketball. But I also think he's one of the best long-term active stash type of guys because he's giving you filler level production when the team is fully healthy. And we know Vooch is on the block. We know LaVine is on the block. We know that the Bulls are trying to unload pieces. So if anything breaks Ayo's way, that's how he rockets up the board. Phoenix, now they're the team in the Western Conference that's in a tailspin. They're one game under 500. They got passed by the Spurs in the last couple of days for that last play-in spot. Man, the West is a gauntlet. They just can't beat people if they're not healthy. And they keep losing guys. Bradley Beal and Kevin Durant did make it through this ball game. Yusuf Nurkic was suspended for this one. So Mason Plumlee got the start. He's borderline startable for this Nurkic suspension. Royce O'Neal was the guy I really wanted to roll out there, and he left after 12 minutes with an ankle tweak. Fart sound effect, basically. Josh Okogie picked up the pieces there with 11 and 9, 2 steals and 2 blocks. I don't have the balls to play Okogie. I think for the Suns' next ball game, if O'Neal is healthy, I would play him. I believe he's questionable right now. Beal, Durant, obviously, those are the easy ones. And then Plumlee is really only if you are hard hunting rebounds, some assists out of the center spot, and more steals than anything else. But he's not, and I mean, he'll get you field goal percent if he actually shoots, but he's not a good free throw shooter. So you got to be a little bit cautious there. Golden State, they're the site of one of my favorite ads over the last week, and that's Trace Jackson Davis, who once again got enough minutes to put up good numbers. 16 and 10, a steal, 4 blocks, even made his foul shots in this one. Limited sample size, obviously. Jonathan Kuminga had 34 and 9. That's a sell-high moment if I've ever seen one, because we know that crap ain't sustainable. For the Warriors, though, Steph, Wiggins, Draymond finally played better. He'd been borderline droppable for the last month also. And now TJD. They're all good to go. Dennis Schroeder is the question mark. Brandon Podziemski got hurt. I don't know if we could say that helps Schroeder. It seems like Dennis kind of had the first crack at the minutes anyway. He just he doesn't look like a fit yet. But I also don't want to abandon ship on Schroeder if he's still kind of feeling it out a bit. So I'm going to try to give Dennis about one more week. And then if there's still just no signs of anything good happening, then that's the end of the road. Detroit, this game was a blowout. Throw it out. Toss it. I know the score was only a 13-point gap. That's because the bench mob made some headway late in the ball game. It's basically just a buy low on anybody you like on Detroit. But it's always a sell high on Jalen Duren because Isaiah Stewart's back. And so Duren sort of free reign for the last 2 or 3 ball games. That's over. I don't really know. I'm assuming I didn't watch the end of this ball game. I know what happened, but I didn't watch it live. I'm guessing that's why Jokic and Murray got back in there, was to sort of stave off a Detroit run. Aaron Gordon out. We don't know what the timeline is there. Russell Westbrook is the continued play. Christian Brown is a hold. Nuggets are a pretty easy one. We move on. Philly is an easy one when they've got their main guys, Embiid, Maxey, Paul George. Those were the only playable fantasy players in this win over Utah. Embiid is questionable. Now it's a foot thing for him. It's always something, but he's played through it the last game or so. If Embiid is out and Drummond remains out, you could stream Yabusele for a day. It's dicey, but you could probably do it. Caleb Martin is a schedule play, and Kelly Oubre is downgraded to a schedule play when the team is healthy. If a superstar is out for Philly, Oubre shifts up to a games cap level play. Utah, they're still fighting through a few guys being down. Clarkson was back, but Keontae George and John Collins were both still out. So we got it's sort of different every ball game. When Clarkson was out, we got an Isaiah Collier sighting. With Clarkson back, Bryce Sensabaugh had a better game, but I don't care. We're not going to go down that path. If this is the collection of Jazz that are available for the next ball game, Kessler, Markkanen, Clarkson, and Sexton are all startable. If Collins comes back, I probably add him to the start bucket, but don't remove anyone. If Keontae George comes back, you almost definitely take Clarkson out of the start bucket. You might take Colin Sexton out of the start bucket as well. That's, again, if Keontae George returns. Dallas, we're watching daily because they've got no Luka Doncic for a month and change. Quentin Grimes and Spencer Dinwiddie are sort of the two guys that it's like, which one is gonna... They were both pretty good in this ball game. I like Dinwiddie more because of the assists upside. He also played 7 more minutes than Grimes did. Quentin is more some threes, some rebounds, and some steals. Dinwiddie is some threes, some assists, and usually a little bit more scoring and free throw upside with a worse field goal percent. How it equates to 9-cat value is a little bit team dependent. Grimes has the more efficient game, which might actually give him the higher floor. Dinwiddie has the, he could explode for 8-9 assists on any given ball game. That's the higher ceiling. I prefer Dinwiddie. Certainly on the head-to-head side, I prefer Dinwiddie. Roto, you could kind of make an argument either way. No Derek Lively. Daniel Gafford had another giant game as a result. These are all great sell high moments for Daniel Gafford. Huge sell high moments happening for Daniel Gafford right now. You might be able to look at people and say, look, over the last week, he's really been super impressive, and you definitely want to get him on your team. But his minutes were trending way down before this. Lively had basically grabbed that starting job and all the minutes that go with it over the last 2 to 3 weeks, and Gafford's been hanging on by a thread. But this is him clawing up the wall with the starting job. Try to get something for him. I think somebody asked me what. I was like, literally any center inside the top 100. That's your target. Oh, man, I don't think I'm going to be able to do it in a half an hour. Scoot Henderson. Was he on our... I think he was on one of our boards at some point. Speculative ad board. Scoot, add him if he got dropped. I think he was mostly getting held in a lot of leagues, but add him if he got dropped. He's suddenly being trusted, and the steals and the assists are coming. The turnovers are the big fear. So, the bottom could very much fall out here. But are they finally going to let Scoot do stuff? Even if they don't let him do everything every night, he rolls into, like Denny Avdia in my mind, actually becoming some of the most interesting active stash guys as well as we, near 5 weeks to the trade deadline, because, Simons is on the block, Jeremy Grant is on the block, DeAndre Ayton is on the block, Robert Williams is on the block. Portland is a team not trying to win all the ball games right now, and there's a lot of ways that you could clear out a path for more Avdia and Scoot. Yeah, I mean, if you could find... talking about a lot of active stashes on today's show. Try to find space for some of these guys, but I also get it. Like, sometimes you just have to have guys that are full-on good right now. Sacramento's first game without Mike Brown went a whole lot like every game with Mike Brown, and that is a decent amount of offense and not much defense. And the Lakers put up a $132 without LeBron James. But in the good news department, the starters were largely pretty good for Sacramento, other than Keegan Murray, who... I think people are going to read too much into this. Like, they're going to look at Keegan and they're going to go, they made the coaching change and now Keegan Murray is bad. Keegan Murray's the same dude he's always been. And he's just shooting like 4% lower than we would have expected this year. And he's the 3-point threat that the Kings need to get back to what he was. He's actually a little bit of a buy low. I don't want him all that bad, but it's one of those, like, it's like a day trader kind of fantasy move. Can you get Keegan Murray when he's at 115 and sell him when he's at 90? Can you squeeze out a round or two of value there? Can you turn someone into someone else that, like, maybe you sell him for somebody who's around 90 that you think is also a little bit of a buy low, and you just, like, inch your way up the board? You turn Keegan Murray into Bilal Coulibaly, who you then turn into Jalen Suggs, who you then turn into Mikal Bridges, who you then turn into Brandon Miller, who you then turn into Bam Adebayo. It's going to take you like 9 trades to get to a top 50 guy, but some of you guys have time for this. I don't. Gabe Vincent hurt his oblique on a hard foul from Domantas Sabonis. I'm sure the Lakers are thrilled about that. And you can see those watching, like D'Lo, he played 28 minutes here, but he's not on the team anymore. Your thoughts here? The Lakers are going to have their new guys by their next game because they made the trade on Sunday. They don't play until tomorrow. It's a 48-hour gap. What do I think is going to happen? I think Dorian Finney-Smith is going to get slotted into at least 20-some-odd minutes on day one, and that's going to ruin Rui Hachimura, who was already fringy to begin with and was more of a play when LeBron was out. But now it's just like, yeah, you're doomed. So AD, LeBron, and Austin Reeves are the only Lakers that I would start going forward in fantasy. Max Christie is a schedule play. Finney-Smith will be a schedule play. I mean, you might even get schedule play level out of, well, Rui Hachimura will be a schedule play at that point. You might get Dalton Connect as a schedule play. You guys get the idea. I'll admit, I did not look to see who didn't play over the weekend. I should have been better about this. I think we're a couple of teams. The Cavs didn't play over the weekend. And was that it? Clippers didn't play over. Who cares? The Clippers. It's two teams that really have almost no fantasy angles at all. You don't even need me to put their box scores on the screen. The Clippers might have Kawhi back within the week. Then we'll talk about the Clippers. The Cavs have all their dudes. Nothing changes for that team day to day. Literally nothing at all. We're done, folks. There were some really fun ads over the last few days. You had those you had the active stash type ads with Noah Clowney. You have the short-term injury pop-ups like a Tristan Da Silva. Andrew Nembhard looks like a pretty good ad these days. Who the hell else were we talking about here? Donte DiVincenzo looks like a really good ad going forward. We had Scoot and Avdia as kind of active stash type ads. Trace Jackson Davis looks like a really fun ad right now. And I already forgot who the last one was. Doesn't matter. You guys listen to the show. You guys know what I was talking about. So a lot of really good stuff that happened over the last 3 or 4 or 5, 6 days. We're in one of those flow. There's an ebb and there's a flow. In the ebbs, we mostly look at injury replacements. In the flows, we look at teams changing their roster construction, and we're looking for rest of season guys. So there you go. You got a few of them here. I'm Dan Besbris. Please follow on Twitter at Dan Besbris, DanBesbris. It's how you win at fantasy, is by getting to the news first. That's the place to get it. Hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel. And we'll be back with you with, I think, another specialty show later on today. We'll see. It might be kind of like towards the end of the day, maybe a late drop, but we'll probably have something else out there. Also, check out my buddy Brenton Eckersley, Snack Size DFS, also available right here on the Old Man Squad Fantasy Basketball channel. We got DFS shows 3 or 4 times a week right now. Really cool opportunity for those of you that play daily fantasy. He is Terrain72, by the way, if you want to check out Brenton on Twitter. Again, I'm at Dan Besbris. Thanks to Bet Online. Thanks to you guys for all that you've done. Go hit the like button on our trade deadline show. Let's get up over 1,000 pre-likes. I know we can do it if we do this together. And I'll talk to you guys later on today. Bye.